right. Thanks, Caribbean Business Chat family, for just coming out and supporting us. And remember to like, share, and subscribe to the Caribbean Business Chat and the Caribbean Chat family. You want to see all our Caribbean people supporting the channel. This is a new one, and our first business chat is going to be with my favorite barber here in Toronto, which is Jezreel from JD Barbers Design. And I'm so happy that you have accepted our invitation to have a sit-down conversation with him about his business. The shop is always busy and always buzzing, so if you see the barbers moving around and the conversation might get a little loud and that kind of a thing, this is what it is. It's a barbershop, and this is what it is all about.
Yes.
And it's all about talking to our Caribbean folks all the time. So, Jezreel, thank you very much for accepting our invitation to talk to you a little bit about JB Barbers Design.
Yes.
And of course, your personal journey into business and, trying to get some understanding of what JB Barbers is, what your life has been like as a Canadian living in Canada, and your journey along the path. So I want to start off with, just letting people know about JB Barbers. You're located here on Pitfield Avenue, 361 Pitfield Avenue. That's off Pitfield and McCowan Road. And that's where your business is. But I want to find out from you, how has your day been going so far since you opened up at 10 o'clock this morning?
Yes, been here from 10 a.m. The day's been steady, and it's been good. We've had a lot of great conversation and great personalities coming through the shop. It's something that we always have going on here. As you know, the barbershop is like a community hub, especially in our Black Caribbean community. Barbershops have always been an essential piece in terms of, sharing the current events and the trends of the day,
Sports, business, politics, whatever it is.
Yes, whatever it is.
Family, whatever it is. This is where we all come to digest a whole lot of it. But talk to us a little bit about the name JB Barbers. How was it? How did it came about?
Yeah, well, JB Barbers is it's pretty much the initials of my name. Jezreel Batson, right, which is JB. And at first I had been involved in this trade from I was a kid, in just a budding high school student. Doing really well in terms of cutting hair locally. People couldn't really afford to get all the great styles all the time, and I was naturally an artistic kid, and I was able to duplicate and emulate all these great styles like coming out of the barbershops, and then it developed from there. And I stayed in the trade for all these years. As you talk
about an artistic kid, it means that your journey in school. I want you to tell us a little bit about yourself. Who is Jezreel? Not just the barber, but who is Jezreel? What are you? Artistic guy? Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Well, very artistic. Always loved as a kid to draw, sketch, do the fine and visual arts. Very good at my hands, always being able to create, different types of artistic pieces, whatever the medium was, whether it was on paper with paint, drawing, whether it was sculpting. I always was involved. I even took up, when they would give us popsicle sticks as a kid to do little projects and build structures. I always made artistic sculptures. It was just something I always liked to do. I had a knack for it. And then, having said that, I started getting into art programs for enriched kids who were doing art. And I started learning a lot of the fundamentals of being art.
I want to segue as you went into that a little bit about school for you. What was school like growing up in Canada, in Toronto? What was it like? What was the journey like? Where have you been? Where have you started your school life from? Yeah,
so I started from a very early age. I'm born Canadian of Caribbean background, right? So my mother being from Jamaica, my father being from Barbados, born here, very connected with my Caribbean roots. The way in which I was brought up in a Caribbean household, all of the tenets of that culture was enforced in our household. And then I was always going back every year to Jamaica, mostly, because I had a very strong Jamaican family connection, because they were very cohesive. My Barbadian side as well. But being from a very large Jamaican family from my mother's side, and everybody was a lot more cohesive, I was able to get more exposure to Jamaica. So I was seeing two sides of what it was like to be a kid in Jamaican culture and a kid in Canadian culture. So
What was it like though for a Canadian, born Canadian, to be, being immersed into this kind of a Caribbean culture and society? Parents very strong in terms of what was it like? How did you accept all of that? Because I'm sure your Canadian culture, going to school, you would have been, your friends, a lot of Canadians and things. But when you came home, it's all about Caribbean and Jamaican culture. How do you deal with that?
So it was interesting because in a lot of kids who grew up with me in the same circumstance experienced the same type of nuances in what it was like growing up here. So one would be diversity was big in Toronto. So growing up as a kid, you're exposed to so many different kids from different cultures all around the world and the globe. And then everybody has different belief systems, and not even just with belief systems maybe spiritually or culturally, but just in the way of the upbringing of a child. Things that would be allowed from one of my peers for them to do at their home wasn't permitted at my home. So I would go home thinking that I should get the same type of treatment that this peer at school has from his parents at home, and then my parents would be telling you, well, you didn't grow in that
there was
home.
no rebellion at all. Or there was a little rebellion.
There was always a pushback, there's always a test of the integrity of your culture, because you're being exposed to different things. And you want to know if, you want to know if you're able to exercise the same type of, way of living or way of life that you've been exposed to outside of your home, in the home, right? But then my parents were very, 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 I don't say strict, they were strict, but as I got older, it was more, very disciplined. As I got older, they were able to also have a fair hand in making sure I had exposure to things, to be educated on society, to not be sheltered. They allowed me to have a good balance of starting to experience what it is to have a social life with different people and see the environment I was in. And so, I love that upbringing.
So we need to big up mom and dad all the time, and the entire family, because you have aunts and uncles too, eh?
Yes, 1000%.
That would have been a part of your growing up as well.
1000%.
So have a big up mom and dad all the time.
Yes.
Right? So mom and dad, remember, lots of blessing. That's why he's here today.
Yes.
Being the person that he is. But talk to us a little bit about, you're out of school, you're looking for work. Where did this start? Where was the first?
Traditionally, the traditional thing is, you go to school, right? You go to post-secondary, right? You try to get work within that vocation or discipline you were educated in. For me, my situation was a lot different. And so being here at a barber, being an entrepreneur and owning a shop for several years, and being self-employed also is a testament to how, unconventional my upbringing was when it came to that. So I was encouraged because I have a background, my family background was very academic. My mother was a doctorate. She already had her PhD in theology. Even my counterpart now, my spouse, my wife, she's also has her master's. So I was always surrounded by people that took education very seriously. I myself was a little bit of a rebel. I did post-secondary.
But you couldn't escape the intellect.
Yeah, so I was surrounded by them.
The intellect's there.
Yeah. So looking back now, I had to do quite a bit to, level the scales in terms of recognition on the educational level. Because when I had left high school, I graduated from high school. And I went to college. I went to Centennial College to do business administration and business management. And within my last year for me to do co-op, I had completely walked away from it.
Wow.
And that was just the 1 year left for me to be able to solidify at least certification for business management. So I got caught making money, thinking that I could put education to the side and just make money in this trade. And then I escaped this trade for a bit and started working in other fields without post-secondary. What had gotten me through was just my ability to communicate well, my ability to understand things really quickly. I was already someone who, by my peers, had said I was able to adapt to environments really well and socialize well. So they were always concerned that, they were always wondering, how come this guy doesn't have a master's or a PhD, because he carries himself as one who is very well educated, speaks very well.
Conversation is always like that at that level all the time too.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what we're talking about, sports, business, community.
Exactly.
Doesn't matter. always on that level.
Yeah, and I've always taken
Yeah.
the time to, make sure I was educated in everything that I spoke about. That, I took the time to always be self-taught or learn in ways and in areas that were important to our society, important to us. And of course, being in my position as a barber, so many people of different walks of life are always walking into this chair.
Yeah.
And a barber, a true good barber, has to be well informed.
Yeah.
So that they can be able to relate to the people that they service.
At different levels.
1,000%.
You know, at different levels, yes.
Yeah, and that everybody can feel welcome,
Yeah.
regardless of their background, their social status, or their education. So I was able to see what it was like, fighting and trying to find my way in the world without that post-secondary that I needed. So I ended up doing many different jobs.
But
sales,
yeah.
customer service, marketing. I was a marketing executive. I did so much things, man. Commission, conference sales. Oh man, I did door to door. There were so many
So you
different
did
things.
all of these customer service related
Yes,
jobs.
between sales, marketing, and customer service,
All of that. It's just people.
just people always. So that helped hone my skill set to understand how to deal with people and what it was to provide services for someone. So I embraced this art because I was so good at it from my childhood.
But why though?
Why
this one out of all of the artistic thing? You could have been
I was spinning
you could
my
have been
wheels.
an artist, painting on canvas. You could have been drawing, a cartoonist.
Yes.
But why was the love for the barbering so much into your
And I believe it's the connection with people. I believe it was the immediate experience of seeing someone transform within a moment and feeling that I've contributed positively to someone when they've connected with me. Like, it's an amazing feeling that when someone comes in, they entrust me with their time and their space and with their look, their presentation. And then as soon as they leave, there was a moment where there's a transformation that took place. So not only did I get a chance to be artistic, to be able to put together this great product of sculpting a style and making someone look great, but I've also lifted their spirits and been able to have discourse with someone and realize that the human side of what I do is so fulfilling, and I think that's what kept drawing me in, that I have the ability to socialize, but at the same time be a professional and execute my artistic skill set all in one.
So the whole thing
setting.
encompass. If you was painting on canvas, you wouldn't get to meet so much people. You wouldn't get to impact their life, and them wouldn't get to impact your life.
Well, I know artists who do that on canvas, so I can't negate.
It's not written off.
Yes, I can't negate the beauty of an artist, because now I've started getting back into my visual arts.
Okay.
I started sketching again. I started picking up the paintbrush.
So maybe we'll see a couple of pieces in the shop.
Yes, you might see something.
At some point in time.
So it is something that I do love doing on my own as well. So I'm sure it does have its reach, because and I think that's another thing too, is that the trades and the arts are something traditionally back when I was a kid. A lot of the older generation, from my parents' baby boomer generation, they didn't promote it because they
looked
felt
down on it.
Yes, they felt
it wasn't like a career.
Yeah, they felt it wasn't viable. It wasn't a career, and a lot of people have realized that no, being a tradesperson or a trades professional or even an artist can be very viable once you apply the same principles you would apply to any other.
I wanted to expand on
business.
that a little bit, and the whole business of barbering being a career, because I've also noted from a little bit of background work I was doing in preparing for today about blackbarbers.com, an initiative that you started. I think it was 2023 that you started it. So talk to us about the whole business of barbering and the career of barbering and how that is.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have to give credit to a lady. It's actually her program, the Black Barbers program. That initiative was started by her, and she had me on board to help facilitate it and be an executive of the organization. So barbering is not just about cutting hair. Everybody just thinks, okay, you just get your hair cut. No. there is a whole operation behind the final product of cutting a hair. There's things to consider, and that's why this Black Barbers program is so essential, is because it lets people who are prospecting the trade know that it is not just the execution, but it is what are you going to do to sustain a business. The fundamentals of business operation is essential. Knowing your market, your demographic, your location, running a brick and mortar, understanding expenses and costs for a brick and mortar, accounting, looking at your revenue as opposed to your loss, your expenses, like knowing and understanding how to keep relevant, not only with trends, as a person who's in the service industry, so that you could continue to perpetuate the customer base, but also remembering that you yourself have to stay up to date with the education process.
So you have to keep
and
educating yourself as you go along
1,000%.
all the time, because your conversation can be anything at any day.
That's it.
With any customer.
But even just to stay relevant, to stay in business, there's regulations that governments that are always putting on businesses to have too. So when you're looking at a career, you have to also look at the fact that you have to stay in alignment with government standards.
Yeah,
with
so a little bit of
health.
laws and
Yes.
that kind of a thing come into being. So you have to understand these things.
Public health standards are something to consider.
Yeah.
Educational standards, city municipal licensing standards. These are all things that are constantly going to be at the forefront of operating a business. That's someone that's in this trade. So when you look at someone who's a barber who runs a business, he's self-employed, entrepreneur, running a brick and mortar, he's not just cutting hair. He's an actual business entity.
Yeah. Because it encompasses marketing, selling your business, financing your business, ensuring that your operation is optimal at all the time, and you're running. You have to take care of your equipment, purchasing. So you have almost all the departments to deal with that all the time, just like any other business entity.
1,000%, yes.
Right, and at the same time, you have customers at varying levels, because like some business, you have customers they only operate at a high level. You have customers, some business operate at a low level, but you operate at every single level, because your customer can be the prime minister walking in, it can be the CEO of any company walking in, it can be an executive producer from somewhere, it can be a school child walking in.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It can be anybody. So you have to be always prepared. So the
1,000%.
career of barbering is absolutely important too.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So there is a career in barbering that we need to we need to always, and think, and I'm glad you touch on it. So influencing the youngsters in terms of getting into this as a career is serious. Is it profitable?
Yes, it's sustainable, it is profitable, it's viable. And that was something that I really didn't understand in my youth. And it took me a while, but it's okay. Everybody in their time realizes and learns within their due time based on their experiences. That's why when I left college, I was spinning my wheels to go and do all these different things, not realizing that I had already had a remarkable gift of barbering, that I could have established myself as someone who has a career that has a viable business. Right? And my wife and I, she's the specialized education in the household. I'm the entrepreneur, and we have the balance of both. And she's in the healthcare industry, I'm in the professional trades industry. And it allowed us to balance our home because this was
Who makes more money?
You know what I mean?
She in a big career, or
argue.
you just a regular
She'd
entrepreneur?
She'd argue. She'd argue with me. The reason why she'd argue I'd be me is because I'm never asking her for anything. She's always asking me. Honey,
so there you go.
Honey,
she needs that.
I
So
need this, honey.
Yes, but you never ask
I need
it.
that. I never ask her. I'm always the one. I'm always the household ATM.
Yeah,
you
but,
know that one.
Yeah,
beep,
so,
beep, beep, beep. There's some virtual button here on my forehead.
What just motivates you though to come out every day and to do what you do every day? Apart from just the love and the creativity of it, what gets you out of bed to come out every day to do it?
I would say it definitely is the ability to connect with my community. I've never regret opening this front door.
Yeah.
And I used to hear people walk in and say, oh my gosh, it's Monday, I'm dreading going to work. I've never had that experience. I always get up every morning and I'm elated to come, push that key through that front door and open my door to start my business.
Yeah.
And I know that satisfaction becomes because I'm able to connect with my community and my people.
Yeah.
And that's probably the most motivating driving factor.
Yeah.
That I have the opportunity to do something that I could share my gifts with people and enjoy doing it, but at the same time being happy to connect with my people. I don't know how many people are able to make money or bring revenue and sustain their income and enjoy doing it at the same time. Very few people have that balance in their life.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm happy to get up every morning and come.
Would you walk the same path that you have walked, getting to this place that you are now? Would you walk that same path again if you were supposed to do it again? Is there anything that you would have changed or anything that you wouldn't have changed?
What I would have changed is I would have changed underestimating the power of this trade. I would have initiated into entrepreneurship a lot earlier than I did. But it takes maturity.
Yeah.
And I didn't have the maturity when I needed to then to be able to do what I'm doing now, to make it work for me. So if I had to do it again, I would hope that I would be
getting
a lot more mature
in terms
earlier.
of entrepreneur life.
That's right.
Started that earlier.
That's right.
Yeah.
To understand those key components at an earlier time, to execute it earlier. But and looking back now, I don't have any regrets, man. Everything was a learning process for me.
Of course.
And I believe that it's definitely contributed to who I am today.
Yeah.
And it has allowed me to move forward. And subsequently, we always talk about the next generation. Things that I've done will allow me to remove a lot of the obstacles that the next gen who are prospecting this to have. I could demystify the concepts that this isn't viable because I'm proof of it.
Well, speak to a youngster out there right now. You have the forum to talk to any youngster out there right now, male or female, because both can get into the trades, whether, you want to be a cosmetologist, you want to be a barber, whatever the trade you want to get in. Speak to the youngsters right now. If you have a message for them, what would you tell them right now about getting into these kind of a trade?
Yeah, I'll tell them right now to embrace it if they want to embrace it. Don't feel that it is something that doesn't have dignity, doesn't have status. Know that you are doing a very noble service to your community and that you can make a sustainable income for yourself to sustain yourself. This is a great point where you will be able to get all the foundations you need to be able to run any business, to be able to move forward and operate an organization and empower yourself. These trades aren't simple. They are an essential necessity for our community. People depend on us and our professional trades as they do even a doctor, as they do even a lawyer. So they share the same necessity, and that necessity should empower you to know that you're going into something viable, that you can be comfortable and confident in, and have dignity in what you do. Don't let anybody stray you from your desires. Let your true ambitions always continue to lead you into greater pathways of success. And I've multiple times used to have concerns that being the title of a barber or an entrepreneur didn't have its notoriety or have its prestige. And then the more and more as I got confident in understanding who I was, the service I gave to the community and what I did, and when I went into many circles of different social statuses, people appreciated my contributions. And I realized that I was doing myself a disservice by thinking that what I did wasn't essential or important. And then I knew that the only obstacle I had to that perspective was my own perspective. It wasn't anybody else's. And I realized that we are loved, we are needed, and we are held in dignity.
Absolutely.
and good prestige like
Absolutely.
any other profession.
Talking about mental
Yes.
health even earlier today,
Yes.
it's coming and sitting in the chair.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of, for me, I finish working and getting my hair cut on a weekend. It's part of the relaxation. It's part of the release of the pressures of work and that
Yes.
kind of a thing. So I find a lot of people does, feel the same way too.
Yes.
So this job is an essential part of, getting the business community
Yes.
prepared for the next week of work
Yes.
and also relax after the week of work.
Yeah.
And getting our mental back to a level place.
It's interesting you say that
Yeah.
because barbers have been the de facto therapists for our community, the black community and the Caribbean community,
Yeah.
and the Caribbean Canadian community, Afro-Canadian community for many years. Not just many years, just for decades. We've been a de facto therapist because it's a safe space where men of color can come and share, what's happening in their lives at the same time. So we've been, like you said, the pep talk, like the de facto coach that gives you the pep talk before you go to the interview.
Yes.
You're going to be looking good for the
Right.
interview, and you're also going to be getting the momentum talk
I'm prepared.
to get you prepared, get you set, get your mind right.
Yeah.
So all of these different things, young kids who may not have father figures or mentors, that they can embrace or trust, when they went to their barber for all those years. You see, it's been going viral on social media now, where they have professional athletes talking about how important it was for them to have their barber in their life and what it did for
Travel
them.
with them these days too.
Right, so it's a key service, in not only, just because of that. I tell you that end product of a haircut. There's so much intangibles that go with what we do.
Who is the one business person, anybody in this world that you said you always, not necessarily emulate, but you would always want to, read about, just take little tips, bits from, and what's that one business person?
One business person.
Yeah.
Wow. No one's ever asked me that question. Usually it's always about historical figures,
Yeah.
within our
I'll come into that one.
But when it comes
one
to
business person.
if I had to say one business person, who would it be? That's a good one.
It could be a pops, it could be a mom, it could be an uncle, it could be somebody that is always in the area that you say, hey, listen, every time I think of doing something in business, something that this person says, I always go back to it and say, my uncle said that, or my dad would say this, and it keeps me moving.
Well, I think the one business person that I actually admire a lot, tremendously, is a gentleman by the name of Micheal Lee-Chin.
Micheal Lee-Chin.
And I just admire him very much because he's from our community, and he's done remarkable things and accomplished remarkable things as a business person from our community.
I'm coming from a really humble background too.
Yes. And it's just tangible for me because that's someone I've seen, I've met, that I've known. So that made it real that we can succeed to high
How about
levels.
if we give him a shout out and ask him whenever he comes to Toronto to come to JB Barbers?
Yes, man, come through.
And
Check us out.
McCowan and Pitfield, check us out. Let's get your hair cut, right? Let's get your hair cut, Mr. Lee-Chin. When he come to Toronto, find JB Barbers up in Scarborough, and come get your hair cut. All right? You're.
So that's in terms of someone magnanimous as a that I've been able
very
to
influential figure, both in the
that's been
Caribbean
closely
community
connected to our community,
and
Caribbean.
in the Canadian community.
More closer to home, I would say my uncle, my mom's twin brother.
Okay.
So he was the Chamber of Commerce for the parish at one point, in the parish where my family comes from, in Trelawney.
Trelawney.
His name was Dennis Seawright.
Same bold to hear that.
Yes, Dennis Seawright is
Dennis Seawright.
He was the Chamber of Commerce for the parish of Trelawney for many years. Great contractor and supplier for a lot of the major hospitality brands that built hotels. He was a major supplier for raw materials, owned a lot of property, did a lot. And in all of his success, he always told me, nephew, he goes, scared money, never make money.
Never make money.
And I know it's a common saying, or a cliche saying, but the first time I heard it was from him. And what he was trying to tell me, and he always told me, is that don't be afraid to go out and follow through with your ambitions.
Yeah.
That whenever you have a desire to accomplish, with effort and desire, he goes, take the chance and do it. Because that's the only way that you'll get a return on your efforts, is to go out and do it. And I appreciate him for that encouragement. And he's always been that one.
Yeah. Let's get a little more relaxed.
Yes,
Talk to us about what Jez like to do.
What? I'm now an avid cyclist.
Avid cyclist.
I've been an avid cyclist for about 6 years. I cycled before casually, but for the last 6 years I've been an avid cyclist.
Yeah.
Now I could put the word avid, where
you ride every day? Or
I ride at least, once the season is right, anywhere from 3 to 5 days a week.
So you have a group that you ride with now?
I have a group that I ride with called the Melanin Cycling Squad. Melanin cycling was galvanized during the pandemic because there was a lot of limitations on what we could do, but they encouraged people to be outdoors and active.
Melanin cycling,
and during that time, there was a lot of issues with people, being cooped up and having the stress of the pandemic, and all of these different mandates had people in a strange mental space.
Yeah.
And activity was the best way, and socializing through activity was the best way to help alleviate a lot of these mental concerns that were developing from pandemic lockdown. And cycling became that outlet for a lot of people. Yeah. And it was predominantly, let's just say it was a white male sport predominantly.
Yeah.
And it was an activity you wouldn't see a lot of people of color, participating in, especially in this part of the world. You could go to the Caribbean and see cycling, but you wouldn't see it predominantly here in Canada with people of color. So we were able to start realizing there was a lot of people from the Caribbean community and the Afro community that love cycling, but didn't share it and weren't connected. So what we did is, when we formed Melanin Cycling, we were able to help connect all those people who wanted to embrace that activity and come together, and then it grew like wildfire. And then year after year, it kept growing exponentially.
Melanin cycling.
So, Melanin cycling.
Hey, what's your go-to food when you come through the door every day? What's your go-to thing that you always want?
I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
If you want,
and don't worry about the cycling and the fitness now and other. The food that you desire all the time.
I'm gonna tell you, if you want to know who I am when it comes to food, like if it's my birthday and you wanna bring me a meal, if you bring me ackee and saltfish with food,
dumpling and banana and
piece of yam.
Yeah.
You can put little cassava in there if you want. Yeah. You can get more extravagant. But if you get those basics with ackee and saltfish,
any time of day.
That's my favorite dish of all time. That's my favorite dish of all time. My second would be a nice well-filleted flying fish, which is difficult.
Yeah.
That's from my
Barbadian
side. I won't do the cuckoo.
You won't do the cuckoo.
I won't do the ton corn meal or the cuckoo. But I will do a nice flying fish. So those are my two favorites.
Yeah. Top sports personality.
Top sports personality. Let's go.
Yeah.
Top sports personality would be Floyd Mayweather.
Why?
Floyd Mayweather for his tenacity, his business prowess, and his ability to to galvanize people, whether he's loved or hated.
Retire and come back and win.
Still,
and keep going.
Money Mayweather. Money May. Yeah. And you know what? He's a philanthropist quietly. Yeah. And a lot of people don't really ever look at his philanthropy. They only look at his controversial show, his controversial expositions on the shows.
Yeah.
But
a part of personality.
Yeah.
Sports that you like watching all the time. What sporting discipline that you?
Can't lie to you, basketball, man.
Basketball is
Basketball.
Never miss it.
My son plays ball too.
As a Canadian, not hockey.
Yeah, no, not hockey. And the funny thing is, you grew up. You grew up with hockey being part of because you're Canadian. Yes.
Legend.
Yeah. Thank you, buddy. Respect, yo.
All right,
Thank
cool,
you, man.
Yeah, man.
All right, Davis.
That's the barbershop for you guys.
Yeah, man. Yes.
Yeah.
So it's just like, yo, it's. We always had a hockey stick. We played road hockey. That was part of being a Canadian.
Yeah.
So, lot of things. Yeah, man.
All right. So
So
one word for the man. One word for the business community before you go.
One word
for the Caribbean business community.
Yeah.
What would you like to see?
One word for the business community is support one another. Do whatever you can to share resources amongst your community, business resources, and let's grow our Caribbean economy for us, by us. Let us stimulate our Caribbean businesses with our Caribbean money. Because the more self-sufficient we are economically, is the more we can lift the standard of living and the standard of the quality of business and life for our Caribbean people and Afro people. So let's continue to do that. Share our resources, share one another, and support our own businesses.
And before you go, I want you to tell them your full name. Because this
full
is
name.
not a Jamaican or a Barbados thing.
Yes,
I don't even know where it comes from.
Yes,
but
man. I'll give you the full name. It's Jezreel Ifakayode Abegunde Batson.
Hear that?
Yeah, Jezreel Ifakayode Abegunde Batson. That's my Yoruba name as well, within my given name. I am a man that supports and practices African traditions, because essentially all of us are essentially from the motherland. I'm thankful for our ancestors. I'm thankful for those who walked before us. I'm thankful for those who stood in the gap to make sure that our generation could continue to persevere and succeed today. Many names are going to be called over the years that we give credit to, but we are so thankful. Being of Jamaican heritage, Marcus Garvey, Sam Sharp, Paul Bogle, Nani, we could go on. Thank you all for
You never called my name, but one day we're going to make it fun there, though.
Yes, sir.
Thank
you.
Thank you so much, man.
Thank
it was
you,
a pleasure talking to you. So remember, check out JB Barbers and all of the barbers inside here, right? They give a very good haircut. Ensure you come out and check them out. Come support Caribbean business all the time.
All the time.
Thank you very much for joining us.
All right. Bless.